coming today. Let's get started here. My name is Robert Palmquist, and let me turn on the captioning so that way you can see what I'm saying in addition to hopefully hear what I'm saying. So let me make sure we got everything turned on here. It looks like we do. And all right, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover here and not a whole lot of time to do all that. But we are going to cover captioning, note-taking, and translation services for both in classroom and remote situations. And certainly I welcome your questions, so feel free to ask those as we go along here, and we'll be checking into those as we move forward. Karen is not able to attend today, but she asked me to show you some slides she put together, and so I'm happy to do that. And what we're looking at on the left side here, oops, jumped right through those. Let me go back through those a little slower. But what you see is a jigsaw puzzle on the right side that shows roughly 70% of the content of that jigsaw puzzle. And if you are a student that is hard of hearing, this is kind of what you're hearing. So we're trying to come up with a visual representation of what a student who is missing words, what they end up seeing. And so it's pretty hard to read that to figure out what's really going on in that particular document. As I step through this to 75% and 80, 85, 90, and we get to 100, then you can finally fill in all those blanks. And so that's what we want to do here with captioning, to provide that capability for these individuals that are hard of hearing or potentially deaf. And we want them to be able to have a better view of what's happening in the particular classroom. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. Streamer, we did get a nice award, so we definitely appreciate the United Nations selecting us as the system that they are going to use for captioning and translation of their assemblies. And this is a particular subchapter within the United Nations called the Zero Project Award. So that team has selected us as the platform that they're going to use to provide captioning and translation services. That's kind of a big deal. When you're a captioning and translation company, having a group within the United Nations select you as the winner is probably about as big as it gets. So let's talk about Streamer itself. Certainly it can caption and translate a wide variety of situations. So in this particular webinar, we're going to focus on classroom lectures, but certainly there is a lot more application for Streamer than just in the classroom. But again, that's going to be the focus of this particular webinar. But again, feel free to jump in, ask any questions if you are in a situation that's a little different than the classroom. But in addition to captioning, it does much more. And so we're going to go over these briefly. We're not going to go into any detail. We don't have enough time to go over everything. But note-taking is certainly part of Streamer. So the student has the ability to tag the transcript, the ability to add their private notes to that transcript as it's being generated. So as you, the teacher, are speaking, that student might want to highlight a portion of the transcript and say, I didn't understand what the teacher was saying here. Or maybe it's an assignment or something that's going to be on the next test. And they just want to highlight that portion of the transcript to remind them to study that evening because that's going to be on the upcoming test. Another one, multilingual spoken translation. So everybody kind of thinks in terms of bidirectional translation because they're probably used to a person providing that. Streamer goes way beyond that. So in addition to bidirectional translation, we can do multilingual spoken translation. So if, for example, you had a room full of students where every student spoke a different language, you might have 20 students and absolutely every one of those students speaks a language other than your native language of English. So one speaks Russian, another Vietnamese, another Mandarin, just on down the line. Anything that you say in English is going to be presented to every student in their personal language. And by presented, that means both displayed and spoken out loud. And now if that student that only speaks Russian responds by speaking Russian, that's going to be translated again into everybody's language. So now we're going Russian to English, Russian to Vietnamese, Russian to Spanish, and so forth. So this is very much a United Nations type capability where Streamer is going to handle all those aspects of being able to simultaneously translate what anyone is saying or typing into everybody's personal language. So other things, private messaging, where you can send messages to a student and exchange information that way instead of having to do it, what should I say, verbally in front of all the students. Document sharing, just drag and drop a document and it's shared. Speech generation, I'm probably not going to be able to get into that too much in this particular webinar, but if you have a student that is nonverbal and you want to use Streamer to give them the ability to speak, to voice out sentences, then we can certainly do that. Broadcast messaging, content summation, much more. And so there's a lot going on here. The first question that we get asked by far from educators these days is about privacy and security. So there's a lot of free apps out there that people are looking at, and they've discovered now, unfortunately, through legal issues, that those apps are definitely not private and secure. And so when you're using them, you are giving them the right to record your conversations, and they archive and save that, and they use that data. That's how they make their money. They are using that data to push advertising to your feeds, or selling it to anyone they want to. That is how they make their money. And so with Streamer, we do not do that. We do not sell your data to anyone else. We do not share your data. You alone control all access. And so the four big areas: who, when, how, and what. You alone control who can see the data. You control when they can see it, what time of the day, and perhaps for how long they can see it. You control the way in which they see it, and you also control what they can do with it. For example, do they have the ability to download and save the transcript or not? Again, you control all aspects of this data, and when you clear your data, it is absolutely gone forever. We do not have any backups or any archives or anything like that on our side. It's also very much along those lines compliant with whatever requirements you have. Streamer was initially designed in partnership with the U.S. Marine Corps to be used in their peacekeeping operations as a language translation system. And so by design, from day zero, Streamer was very much designed to be very private and secure. Unlike, for example, Zoom that we're using right now. We consider Zoom to be very unsecure, and they keep adding band-aids to it. For example, you get placed in a waiting room, and then they added a invite code and all these various other elements. It still is very much not secure in our minds, because it was not designed to be secure at the very beginning. It was designed just to be easy to use. Streamer, we have very much designed it with the intent of being private and secure to meet those requirements that you have for student privacy. Because it's a website, Streamer runs on basically anything. And so if you have Chromebooks or iPads or laptops, whatever you might have in your district, Streamer is going to happily run on those. We do not care at all what the CPU is or what the amount of RAM is on that computer. We are absolutely fine with a $29 Amazon Fire tablet, as well as maybe a $5,000 laptop or something like that. Either way, Streamer is going to run the same. So please do not spend money on buying some expensive system for Streamer. We're absolutely happy with it running on a low-end system. So again, keep the prices low in terms of that platform. I would say by these days, Chromebook is probably the most common. Let's see, it does work with most applications. So Zoom, for example, basically anything that you're running, you're going to be able to use Streamer at the same time without any problem. And definitely one-to-one conversations. So if you are pulling a student aside and having a private conversation, maybe you're a DHH teacher that's pulling that student aside to talk with them, certainly we can do that. Group conversations. So if you have a group of, let's say, 6 students in a circle that are discussing a book that they read, we'll be able to support that situation where every student would be captioned with their name identified as part of that captioning. Classrooms, which is the focus of this particular webinar. So live and remote, we'll get into that a bit more. Presentations like this one, of course. We are going to be part of the World Cup soccer events. And so here we're talking about stadium events where we have 75,000 people in a stadium that are going to be able to access captioning in their desired language. So that is some of the background, and the big thing in terms of Streamer, how do you use it? You click on a desktop icon. So once you configure your system with your password, all you need to do is click on that desktop icon. So many of you probably have a single sign-on system. SSO would be the acronym for that. And so with Streamer, you can do that same approach where once you configure and validate your account, then you will be able to just click on that desktop icon, and that's going to place you directly into your room. So as a teacher, you're probably going to click on that desktop icon, and when you're ready, click on the microphone. And a student basically does the same. Click on a desktop icon. They can add notes as desired, then download the transcript at the end of the class period, and then clear it for the next class. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me get out of this. What we've been looking at is the overlay mode. I'm going to close out of that, and I'm going to bring over the actual Streamer window so you can see this. And let me make this quite a bit bigger. And so here is everything that I've been saying. And let me make sure I've got everything going here. All right. Oh, I'm going to refresh this. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to zoom in on the font size a little bit because I think that's probably really hard for you to read. So first demonstration here is all I do is click on the Chrome settings, and I am able to zoom in on that and adjust the font size to the size that I want. And so I think that's a little bit easier for you to read. But this is the primary interface that you will use with Streamer. And so everything that I'm saying you can see is automatically being captioned. You can see the punctuation follows a little bit after I'm saying the words. We need the complete context of the sentence in order to enter that punctuation, but it is certainly going to be there when they download that particular transcript. So as the teacher is speaking, the student would be able to see this live captioning. And over on the right side here, if they have this side panel displayed, they can add custom notes to the transcript. So again, this is part of the note taking. And so if, for example, as you're saying something, the student wants to just add a little tag that says, hey, study this for the test, they can double click. And when they do that, that note gets entered directly into the transcript at that point. And so it is color coded. Now the student can easily create their own notes. They do not need to use our default ones. They can customize these however they want. In addition to entering the note as is, they could edit the note. So for example, this particular one, if I single click on this, I could say, ask, who should I ask? Chris about this. And then I can enter that in. So that is an example of the ability to quickly add notes to a transcript. Again, the student can create their own note categories, whatever they want to be able to enter them. Same thing for speech generation. I don't have much time to get into that, but they can add phrases here that when they click will be spoken out loud, and they can edit those phrases, or if they want, of course, type them from scratch and do that as well. At the end of the class period, what the student is going to do, if you give them permission, is to come up here to the download transcript option. And so when they click on this, it's going to ask the time range that you want and the format. I prefer Word, so I'm going to click on DocX. And then we have this feature called Include a Summary. And what that does is it takes the entire lecture, that hour-long transcript, and condenses it. Now, you can pick long, medium, or short. Long is sort of the Cliff Notes version. So if that transcript were, let's say, 30 pages long, it's going to condense that lecture down to about 10 pages. So it's quite long, but 1/3 the size. And short is going to put it down to just a single paragraph. And so that's what I'm going to click right here. And when I click on download, it's going to ask me, where do I want to save that? And let's go ahead and save it to my cluttered desktop. Hopefully I can find it there. And I'll just say today's demo. And we'll go ahead and save that to the desktop. And let's see if I can go find that. Again, a cluttered desktop. There we go. Today's demo, I'll open that up, and looks like it opened up on my other monitor, so I'm going to drag it over here. But here you can see the summary that was automatically generated for this. And down here is the transcript itself. Every person that's speaking will be identified in that transcript, along with the words, and you can see the full punctuation as part of that. Remember, I added a couple notes here. Let's scroll down and see if we can get to those notes. Here we go. And so here's the one in purple where I added that note, and you can see it's embedded directly into that part of the transcript. And it's very easy a note, so I could search this document for the word note and just jump to the next one. And then if you remember, I added this one here as well. So that's a very quick example of being able to use Streamer to, let me go back to it, to use Streamer to be able to caption what you're saying, to be able to take notes during that particular session, and then to be able to download and save it. So that is pretty much how a student is going to use it. And then at the end, they're just going to clear the transcript. And I'm going to do that right now by double clicking. And again, once I do that, it is absolutely gone forever. There's no backups whatsoever. And we do not keep an archive. There's no undo command, because if we had an undo command, we would have to be doing a backup of your system. One other small point, but important point to make, is that with Streamer, we do not generate a voice recording of what you're saying. We only generate a transcript. And that is potentially a huge legal issue for you. And so in many states, if you are generating a voice recording of what's being said, you know, for example, a student asks a question in the class or something, you have to have full permission from all parties knowing that you are recording what they are saying. With Streamer, we do not generate a voice recording, so that legal issue goes away. And so that was quite deliberate on our part in order to make sure that this system was going to, you know, fit your legal requirements. And so that's part of what's built into the system itself. Okay, let me jump back to some of these slides and we'll keep going, because I know we have a lot to talk about. So let me pull this up a little bit so you can see the captioning at the bottom of the screen. Oops. Jumped into full mode. Come on, PowerPoint. There we go. All right. So I'm going to keep the captioning displayed here at the bottom of the screen, and you'll be able to see the slides at the top as I'm speaking. Okay. So conversations with Streamer occur in what we call a room. And this is an analogy just like you have in your classrooms, in your school setting. So when you walk into a school building, you have rooms in that building. And so you might have room 101, 102, 103, 104, so forth. And on each room, you're going to have a label. Something like principal's office or Mr. Anderson's office or something like this. And we do the exact same thing with Streamer. Again, this is very much designed for use in a school setting. And so that's what we do. We have this concept called rooms. And you can think of a Streamer room as being an actual room. It is virtual, it's in the cloud, but just think of it as an actual room where people gather for conversations. In this particular case, when people gather, they don't have to physically be in the same room, but they could. But if you have a student that's homebound or you're in a remote situation where some students are there and some aren't, Streamer is going to work the same way whether that student is physically in the room or is in a remote location. Either way, we're going to be able to support them. So again, the room is where the captioning or translation is being displayed. That's what you're seeing at the bottom of the screen here. As I'm speaking, you're seeing that captioning displayed. You can have as many rooms as you want in your particular account, and you can invite as many people as you like into each room. Remember earlier I showed you a slide where we had 75,000 people in a stadium. So they're all going to be in the same Streamer room, all 75,000 of those people. All your rooms are shown in your Streamer lobby, each with a number and a label. So let me show you how that works. So if I come out to the lobby here, what you can see in this particular setup, I have this pretend school called Greenvale. And in here I have, what is that, 8 different rooms. And it's showing how many people are in any particular room, in this case just me. because I'm occupying it. And I can jump into any room I want. So we have been using room number 1 for this particular demonstration, but I could jump into room 2 and I could start captioning there if I want. But I'm going to go back over to room 1. So again, this is the particular lobby of where we're at. It shows you all the rooms in your particular system. When a student logs in, they're only going to see the rooms they have access to. They're not going to be able to see all the rooms in the school building, of course. Same with the teacher. And so you decide, again, who can access what rooms at any given time. And in this particular case, we've been using this particular room. Notice that when I was in the lobby, it was still captioning what I was saying, so I do not need to have this be active. And the same thing if I collapse this window down. So if we go back to the streamer screen, even though this is full screen and I'm not displaying that particular streamer room, it is happily captioning what I'm saying in the background for me. Let me go back and get that so you can see it once again. All right, got collapsed windows here. Here we go. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit, bring it back to the bottom again, just so you can see it. There we go. Make it a little bit bigger. And I think I'm going to hide the side panel. And then we'll go back to these PowerPoint slides. All right, so we're back. So again, all the rooms are shown in what's called your streamer lobby, and you can think of that just as a lobby in your school building, each with a number, room number 1, and then a label, and that could be the teacher's name, it could be the student's name. So typically in the US, looks like about 75% of the folks at this webinar are US or Canada. And so typically in US and Canada, we tend to have what's called an IEP for a particular student. And that student then is assigned the room, and they're going to use that room throughout the course of the day. So they're going to have one single streamer room. And when they go to, let's say, 7 classes, they're going to use that one room throughout the course of the day for each of their classes. You do not need to purchase 7 rooms to support that student. They're just going to use a single room. Now, over in the Middle East for certain, and in some places in Europe, they tend to do the opposite approach, where there the thought process is if any student has access to an accommodation, then every student should have equal access to that accommodation. So they want to give every student equal access to the captioning and translation system. So in their deployment, they tend to assign rooms to the teachers, and now any student in that classroom would be able to log in and view the captioning. But you can do it either way. Streamer happily supports both of those. With each subscription, an additional room is added to your lobby. So again, just think of a room as the place where that conversation occurs. So how do you get into a room? I mentioned earlier, unlike Zoom, where you need a URL and an invite code, and you got to send that out in advance and do all those kind of steps. With Streamer, you do not do that. You use a user account, which is a password protected user account. So they're going to use that same user account every time they log in. So again, if you have an SSO system, you can think of it like that, where you're just going to double click on that icon and you're going to be entered directly into your room. All user accounts have a password required for security, of course, and that password is going to be something you keep and can change at any given time. Remember, I talked about languages in this ELL class where you had potentially 20 students that all speak a different language. So the way that works is each account that is created is set to that student's preferred language. So if they speak Vietnamese, you're going to create an account for them set to Vietnamese. Accounts are completely free. You can create as many as you want. The only thing with the subscription is you're getting the room. So again, the user accounts are completely free. So if you have that ELL class with 20 students, they would all use that single room, and you just need one subscription to support that. Again, each person can view the captioning and hear it in their preferred language. Simultaneous multilingual translation that occurs instantly. So let's talk about the 3 types of user accounts. We're getting a little bit into the details here, but I think it's kind of important for you to get this bigger picture. So 3 types: admin, personal, and shared accounts. And again, with the room. Anybody can enter that room as much as you want, be it a few people or 1,000 people. The admin account. So when you sign up for your system, we are going to create an admin account for your school. And you can duplicate this. You can have multiple admin accounts, but the admin account is all powerful. And so with any secure and private system, you need one account that can do absolutely everything, because that account is going to be able to control all access. And so the admin account is not something you're going to give to individual teachers. You're certainly not going to give it to students. This is the main account, and with them, they are able to view all the rooms in your district. You can monitor student usage, assign rooms to teachers and locations, for example, to the high school or the middle school or elementary schools, whatever it might be. With this, you can set the global access and usage permissions. For example, by default, do you want students to have the ability to download a transcript or not? You can set that. So again, we're giving you the controls to be able to do that. You can send out messages to everybody, broadcast messages, for example, reminding them maybe of a vacation or the dates of finals that are coming up, all the above. So this is a very powerful account. There is always at least one of these accounts, because we'll set that up for you. And if you want, you can create duplicates of this. In addition to that, you're going to have individual accounts. So with an individual account, when that person logs in, they're only going to see the rooms they should have access to. So if that room is assigned to a student, then the student is only going to see that particular room. In there, they can view the captioning, add notes and such, depending on the permissions that you set up. That student will be able to perhaps download and save the transcript, that sort of thing. And then one other item that we added for teachers as a result of the COVID response. So we had a lot of superintendents and such that were giving presentations to the community, talking about the COVID response and such. And so they wanted this concept of shared accounts, so we're happy to do that for them. So with a shared account, again, they can only see particular rooms, but by default, all they can do is view that captioning. So it's similar to what you would have on a television program, where you see the captioning, but you can't clear it, you can't download it, you can't do anything with it really, other than view it in your desired language. And so if in your community, the superintendent was giving a presentation and you have some members of the community that would like to see and hear that in Vietnamese, others in Spanish, others of course in English, Streamer can do that for you using a shared account. Very easy to do this. You would create that shared account, and if 1,000 people want to view it in Spanish, they would all log in using that same shared account. So all they would do is go to streamer.center and log in using that account you create for them. They do not need to have a URL or a QR code or an invite code or to download and install an app. All they need to do is log in using that account you create for them. So in my case, it could be something like Greenvale-Spanish, and then everybody would be able to log in using that. If you want, if you're just creating a system for a single student, you're probably going to create the accounts on your own. It takes roughly 30 seconds to create an account. It's quite simple to do. But if you're doing this for, let's say, 1,000 people, between staff, teachers, and students, we've had districts with 50,000 students that we're doing this for. We are happy to create all those accounts for you. We do this all the time. There's no charge for that. It does take us a full day to turn that around, but you would have to give us some data, and with that, we will create all the accounts for you. So don't worry about that. And if you have a single sign-on that you want us to integrate with, we're happy to do that as well. Something like ClassLink or something, we are happy to do that. We will also take all the rooms that you order and we will assign them to each individual and the situation. So for example, if you have a student that we're going to assign a room to, we will make that happen. A situation, for example, could be a room that you're going to reserve for morning announcements, or maybe assemblies, student assemblies or something like this. But we will do all that for you, add the labels and permissions, and we do that all the time. So we're happy to do that. So again, some quick review here. We can do multilingual synchronized translation where everybody is going to see, and if they want, hear the captioning in their preferred language. We support well over 100 languages, and we just last week added support for Afghanistan languages. And so if that's an issue in your school district or a coming issue, certainly we can help you with that. We're going to get you a copy of these slides when everything's done. And what you'll see at the bottom of many of these slides is this sort of light blue text. And that is going to give you a web address where you can look that up for more information on that particular element. So in this particular case, multilingual synchronized translation. Note taking. I mentioned this earlier and gave you a quick demonstration. So you're able to add personal notes to the live transcript, creating their own categories. And these could be pre-configured, so the student just double clicks, or they can edit them, or they can type them from scratch. And so again, here's that particular link that shows you how you're able to do that. Okay. And let me jump to the next one here. Group discussions. And so this can be handled in multiple approaches. And so depending on your particular situation, for example, if every student in your district has a Chromebook or an iPad or something like this, we are going to use the microphone that is built into that student's device. It's going to identify each student as they're speaking, and that is going to be entered into the transcript. Also, multiple people can speak at the same time and in any language. And that may seem sort of like a bizarre item, but this happens all the time in real life. And it's not that people are being rude or talking over each other. A lot of times it's what we call sociable feedback. And so as one person is saying something, somebody else might say, yes, okay, sure, all right. Can you explain that? You know, they're kind of just giving this sociable feedback that's polite to them. But that person who is deaf or hard of hearing misses out on that. And that can be very important. And so with Streamer, you do not need to take turns speaking. We will caption everybody simultaneously as they are speaking. It's actually a pretty big deal in terms of comprehension of what's happening in particular meetings. Messaging. I guess I didn't really show that to you, so I will show you that right now. Let me talk about it first, but private messaging. I can send personal notes to individuals. I can block this ability for students to do that if I want. But in a class period, for example, a student could send you a note or at the end of the class period, and it's going to be retained in your notifications page. And again, I'll show you this in a second here. And welcome message and broadcast. So let me give you an example of this. I'll make this a bit bigger again. And so what I can do is, let's see, Annabelle is an employee here. And so I could send a message to Annabelle by just typing her name at the bottom here. That's her account, and say, hi, Anna. And when I do, that's going to get sent to her, and it's going to appear live on her screen. And it's also going to appear in her notifications page, which is up here. So that's where all those messages are saved. So here's some that I've gotten. It's a very nice way of being able to send messages back and forth. If Anna, in this case, had her audible notifications and pop-up notifications turned on, when I sent that message to her, she would hear a tone on her computer. And if the pop-up notification is there, it's going to display that message as a little pop-up that's going to appear on her screen. Where this gets really nice for teachers, you know, why do we do all this, is that we got some requests from some teachers earlier on that wanted the ability to send a reminder to a student that, hey, come on down to my office. Our scheduled time starts in 15 minutes. And so you can send a little pop-up note, and it's going to do a little bing on their computer screen, and they'll see that message, reminder, come on down in 15 minutes. And so it's just kind of a nice little feature that was requested by teachers. And so we're happy to do that and get that implemented. Welcome message is a message that's displayed to everyone when they first come into the room. And a broadcast message is something that will get sent to every user in your system. And so it's definitely, as it meant there, broadcast. Document sharing. So if you want to share documents with the students, I prefer just to drag and drop them in. You can share it with everyone that's in the room or just selected individuals. And then everyone instantly has the document on their platform. Not like email where you send it and it takes about 10 seconds and you're not sure if it really got there, if it got filtered out into some junk folder or something like that. With Streamer, we can absolutely make that happen. So again, if I wanted to send a document, just have one here, Roman history, but all I do is drag that into the transcript window, and then got to make my screen a little smaller here. There we go, and attach it, and then I can send that to everyone. And so once I do that, everyone in the room now has that document. And here it is, they can launch it. If I had my toggle rich content on instead of just a link to the document, they would actually see a little thumbnail of it. So it's kind of a nice way to be able to quickly share documents and photos. Doesn't have to be, in this case, a PDF document. It can be any kind of document they want, and they're going to be able to see that as you send it. Okay, going back to the slides here again. Speech generation, again, probably looking at the time here. Maybe I could, yeah, it's going to be hard for you to see that. But what you can do with Streamer is have the ability for phrases to be spoken out loud. Now, certainly you can, so this would be for a student who is nonverbal. So certainly a student can type a sentence from scratch. And so that's a fine way to do it, but it takes a long time to type something from scratch. And if you're doing that, the other person in the conversation perhaps can get a little frustrated, or if you're giving a lecture in the classroom, the student's typing away, but by the time they finish typing it, you've moved on. So instead of pointing to the map saying, here's China, by the time that student gets that typed in, you're now pointing to Russia or something like this. And so time to generate those phrases can be very important for a student who is nonverbal. So what we've done is put together this concept called Phrase Builder. And what we have here on the side panel are these phrases that they can enter. And so, for example, if I wanted to speak this one out loud, now let me scroll over that. So as I hold my mouse over this, you can see actually what's going to happen when I click on this. So in the tooltip, as they call it, shows that it says, hello, my name is Robert, and so forth. And so when I click on that, what's going to happen is this would get spoken out loud for everyone to hear. And in this case, you can't hear that because I don't have the speakers set up. But that will be spoken out loud in the preferred voice for that particular individual. And so again, I could type things in from scratch. I could use these preset phrases, or I can single click and I could edit this. And so if I wanted to change this to something else, I could do that and then have that get spoken out loud. The way they create their own phrases is in the account settings, which is this person icon up here. And when I go to that, you'll see this whole thing called phrases. And here is where they can create phrases and color code them however they want. So I kind of went over that pretty quick. But definitely if you have a student who is nonverbal and you want to learn more about that, just let us know and we can give you a more detailed description. Saving transcripts. So the transcripts are immediately available to users. Again, you have the ability to turn this feature on or off. So if you're not comfortable having the students download transcripts, turn that off. It's very simple to do that. Autoclear is a powerful feature, not used a lot in schools. It's used a lot in business settings. But with Autoclear, you can choose to have Streamer do the clearing for you. So for example, every morning at 1 a.m., you could wipe out all the contents of your room. So everything's wiped out. Or you could automatically have the transcript get cleared at the end of your class period. So at the end of the class, it's just going to automatically clear it. And again, it's gone forever. You can also set auto clear to have it immediately clear a sentence. And so kind of like on TV, where when you see a particular sentence, when the next sentence is spoken, that previous one is gone forever. It's sort of like that, but we do it a little bit more intelligent than that. So instead of just a single count of characters, which is what a TV does, what we do is do it per sentence. But basically, when the next sentence is spoken, the previous one is gone forever. And so we do see that every now and then in school settings, but we see it quite a bit in business settings where they Just want to have that single sentence. Again, you have the ability to enable or block people from downloading it, and they can do that in multiple format options. And again, I showed you that automated summary of the transcript, which is really nice for students. So instead of having to go through 30 pages of transcript, they can read that paragraph and get a summary of what that lecture was all about just at the very top. New features. And so go over some new features that we have for this particular year. Um, let's see, one of them, I'm going to grab a quick drink of water here in a second. Sorry about that. My voice is starting to go. But one that we got requested, probably more from workplace versus school, is that the overlay translation mode, which is what I showed you at the very beginning, now supports translations. So if I wanted to use an overlay where the captioning is superimposed on top of this PowerPoint slide, I could choose to display that in Vietnamese or Russian or whatever language I want. So that's kind of nice. But again, it superimposes the captioning on top of another window. Right now that works with Windows and Mac OS, so that would be Macintosh laptops. Soon it will also work with Chromebooks. iPads, not very soon. Yeah, Chromebooks definitely in the works. iPads, far more difficult to get something like that to work. And again, here's a link where you can get more information on that. So again, Windows and Mac OS now, and Chromebooks, probably about 2-3 weeks out on making that happen. Another new feature that was definitely requested by teachers, so we're happy to put this together, is to create groups of user accounts. And so what this means is that if you have 30 students in your class, you could group all those students together into a single group, call it My Students. And then you can enter commands that impact all those students. So if you wanted to turn off the microphone for all these students, so all they're doing is listening to you, you could do that with a single command. And so all 30 students that are in that class would no longer be able to use the microphone. Where it gets used a lot is temporary access to a room. And so if you want to allow students to enter the room for 45 minutes, you can do that with a single command instead of having to potentially do it 30 times, one for each account. So there's a lot of power going on with the grouping feature. I'll show you how to access that real quick, but I'm not going to demonstrate it, I guess. But down here, I did that pretty quick there. So do it a little slower. So I'm going to the account settings, which is the person icon up here in the right corner. And over here is, I showed you earlier, the phrases, and here is the groups. And so in here, I can create all those groups. And while I'm here, this is where you can change the avatar, the picture that you have, change your language, that sort of settings. You can see all your rooms that you have ownership of. Here you can change the username itself and of course the password. So let's close out of that and go back to the new features. Okay, so again, the grouping feature, a very powerful new feature that was one or two on the requested items. Language translation, certainly a requested items, but lots of teachers really wanted this grouping feature. So we were happy to put that together for you. This is probably the number one that we had from teachers. There's been all sorts of situations, I guess to use a nice term, where students have recorded some event in the classroom and posted it to social media, and we want to give you control over all those situations. So again, who is accessing your system, when they're accessing it, what they can do with it, and how they're accessing it. And so we spent some time making that more control for you as the teacher. So now you don't just give control to a student to allow them to use the room 24 hours a day. You could still do that. But with this access feature, you can specify the days and times someone can access your room. So for example, if you were giving a presentation, the superintendent is giving a presentation to the community, and you just want to allow the community access to that room for the 45-minute duration of that presentation, you can do that. So it's a temporary access. At the end of 45 minutes, they will be kicked out of the room and they will no longer be able to access it. You can also give recurring access. So if you have a student in your class Monday through Friday and from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., you can give student access to that room only during those time frames. And same thing if you, I know a lot of schools are on sort of a split schedule. So maybe you have that student Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can do that as well. So you totally can define the times that they will have access. And you can also give scheduled access. So for example, from on a particular date in a particular hour or 2 hours or whatever it might be, you have complete control over when these accounts can access your room. So a very powerful command. It works for individual accounts as well as the grouped accounts. And so a really nice feature that was strongly requested by teachers. So we were happy to put that together. Broadcast messaging, we've enhanced that. In the past, the message was always displayed for 24 hours. So when you broadcast a message, if you did a mistake and a typo or something like that, it was going to be there for 24 hours. And so this was a request we had, was the ability to be able to retract a broadcast. And so we did that. So you can turn it off anytime you want and be able to correct it or anything like that. So again, a link there in order to be able to dig a little more into it. And coming soon. This is more requested in Europe, particularly Eastern Europe, but a version of Streamer that runs locally on the computer. So right now everything is cloud-based, but with this local version of Streamer, no network is needed. So it's going to run standalone on a Windows or a Mac OS. Those will be the first two platforms. Chromebook will be further out, and iPad or phones would be very difficult. So that would be much longer. All right, so let me give you some tutorials and we'll ask some questions here. I got about 10 minutes to wrap everything up. Getting started tutorials. And so again, we'll get you copies of these slides. You don't have to write all this down. But this is going to bring you to 3 videos, one for the admin folks, one for teachers, and one for students. And so that's one way of deploying the system. And here's more information. So if you're in a school setting, which most of you are in this webinar, you would use that first link. But that is going to give you detailed instructions on how to set up your system. And again, we're happy to configure your systems for you. We'll create your rooms, create your accounts, do all that, and we're happy to do that. Getting started handouts. Again, we'll get you a copy of these slides, but the one-page overview is kind of a marketing info sheet. But the quick start guide, I think it's 4 pages long, but that's going to step you through all the details you really need to know. If you prefer to have more details, we have the print version of the manual, and you can print that out. I think it's like 5 or 6 pages long, but that's going to give you all the commands. You can also access the commands by clicking on the question mark up here in the corner, and that's going to show you all the various commands that are available to you at any given time. But again, if you prefer to have a printed copy, you can do that. The second page in that is the frequently used ones, and so you can just print out that one page, and that would pretty much get you covered. If you really want to dig into all the features, then here's where to look. And so that's going to step you through a lot. And so I'm just skimming the surface here in terms of the capabilities of what you can do. And this one is quite detailed in terms of the various Streamer features. So that's going to step you through it. Probably the most important slide of this whole presentation. Maybe the privacy one was more important, but here is how you can do a free trial. And I'd encourage you to do this right now if you haven't already done it. It certainly takes less than a minute, but just go to this particular link. And so you could type that into your browser right now and enter that. There is no credit card here. This is not one of those deals where if you forget to cancel your trial, you're going to get charged, which I do all the time. I sign up for something and they say cancel within 30 days and I forget to cancel. And then I get upset because I don't want to pay for that. So in this particular case, there is no credit card. You will not be charged anything. At the end of 30 days, if you want to convert it to a subscription, you can. If you don't, it'll just disappear. But all you'll do is enter your email address when you go to this form, enter your email address, and that's where we're going to send you your login information. So it does need to be a valid email address. And then enter your name just so we can talk to you. And then enter the name of your streamer account. So what we recommend is you put a -admin after it. So if you're setting one up for your school, you'd use your school district followed by -admin. If you're just playing around with it and setting one up for yourself, use your last name or something, -admin, whatever you want. But that -admin is just a nice visual indicator that this is that all-powerful admin account. So you won't accidentally give it to somebody else. And then the name of your first room. And so again, just put a -1 or a -01 or something after it. So again, it could be the name of your district. It could be your last name. It could be whatever you want. But just putting a -01 makes life easier. So again, -admin for the name of the account and -01 after the room name. And again, it just makes life easier. So call that a user tip, I guess, sort of thing. And remember to click the button at the bottom. We have people fill out the form and they forget to click that button and they call us and say, how come I haven't gotten it? Well, that's why. When you do that, we are going to give you your first streamer room. We are going to give you that admin account that you named when you fill out the form. And you get unlimited captioning, translation, note-taking services, speech generation services. This is the full system with Streamer. There are no add-ons or something like this. Another thing software companies do that I don't like is they get you to start for free, and then when you want to actually use it, you start having to pay. So for example, there's a lot of captioning services that the first something like 600 minutes are free or something like this. And then they start really hitting you once you go over 600 minutes. Everything with Streamer is unlimited captioning and translation, unlimited number of user accounts. There are no surprises. When you sign up for a subscription, you're going to get everything there, and there are no limits. Okay. Monthly cost for unlimited services. So either $8.25 a month or $9.99 a month. And so that $8.25 is with an annual payment. So if you do that math, that comes to $99 a year. Again, unlimited use, no add-ons. You don't need to pay extra for languages or extra per user or something like that. If you are purchasing multiple rooms for your school district, we do have an educator's discount. So 5 or more will get you a 20% discount, 10 or more, 25%. What is it? Can't remember the next break where you jump to 30%. But the more rooms that you purchase, the lower the price becomes. So we do make it very affordable to equip an entire school. We do this all the time, where we have a district-wide approach where everyone has equal access to the services. And if you're going district-wide, what you have is unlimited number of rooms. So we're going to assign a room to every staff member, every teacher, plus media center, or everybody that works in your school is going to have their own personal room. The way we price that out is we look at the total student population, and it comes in around 20 cents per student. And this is the total student population, not just your IEP needs. But this is a fixed flat fee with an unlimited number of rooms, and we will do all the configuration for you. So multiply the total number of students in your district by about 20 cents. It's been coming in a little cheaper than that, but that'll give you an idea in terms of those particular types of costs. Again, we'll create all these accounts for you and do all your setup, so it's a pretty straightforward item. Okay, so questions, and I do have some here, and I can stick around afterwards. We've got about 6 minutes here, so I think I spoke a little longer than I should have. But here is contact information to get a hold of us. And so you see the phone number. You can send us an email, and again, I kind of hesitate with emails because so many of them get sent to filtered folders. We get thousands of emails a day, and it's sort of hard to do that. If you have a Streamer account, all you need to do is type that @tech support, and we'll get back to you. So what you would do is in your Streamer account, you just type @tech support, and then you would type whatever the question is. Can you help me set up an account? And that is going to get sent to our tech support team, and they'll respond back to you. And if they don't get back to you right away, you will see the answer in your notifications page. So by far, that's the best way, we think, to get a hold of us. We also certainly, if you're comfortable with it, we encourage students to use that. So if, for example, in the middle of a class and they have some sort of question, they can send us that question directly versus having to go to the teacher, and the teacher goes to IT, and IT contacts us, and then it has to go back down that loop again before the student gets the answer. We are very comfortable with students contacting us directly for tech support. We're happy to do that. Visit the websites. And so Success for Children with Hearing Loss. Again, Karen wasn't able to make it, but I did want to show you her website. And so here is one of the pages. Let's see if I can go to her home page. Oops. Here we go. There we go. So this is the Success for Kids with Hearing Loss.com. And that's Karen's website. And over here on the right side, or kind of on the right side, you'll see services. And this is where you can find out information on Streamer. And Karen and her team have done just this fantastic job of being able to put together scenarios where you can investigate using Streamer or back off. So this isn't going to be the perfect fit for everyone, but there's a lot of information in here in terms of using Streamer and whether it's going to be potentially a good fit for your student. And so I encourage you to take a look at all this information that she has here, go through that. On the prices side, this is where you can place an order for Streamer. And here's where you can sign up for the 30-day trial. I gave you that link in the presentation earlier, and place orders and such. The 10-room discount is here, but if you want to order 5 rooms, you'll get a 20% discount, or 20 rooms or such, different discounts. Just contact us, and we're happy to provide you with a quote for those additional rooms that you may have. So again, this is Success for Kids with Hearing Loss.com. And so that is Karen Anderson's website, and I certainly encourage you to take a look at that. All right, let me shrink that down, and let me get over to questions that we have here in our final couple minutes. First off, if you would like continuing ed credits and you have been here for the entire hour, and we will check to validate that, just send an email or a Streamer message asking for those credits, and we will get you the certificate emailed back to you. Again, this is for people that viewed this webinar live versus later on in a recording. And so just let us know if you'd like those CE credits, and we will be happy to send them. So let's see some questions here. How would this work for a teacher that wanders the room? Would they need to have a wireless microphone attached to them or stay near the computer? That's a great question. So thanks for answering that. And what we really strongly recommend is that the teacher wear a wireless microphone. And these days, that's typically a lapel mic that is clipped to their mask, and that works awesome. And we think that's a great way to do that. In most cases in US and Canada, that tends to be a wireless microphone that is connected to the student's computer. And so the student would have the receiver on their desk, and that's connected to their computer. In some countries, Asia, India in particular, what that tends to be is a lapel mic on a cable that is connected to the teacher's computer. So instead of a wireless, which can get quite expensive, they use a cabled lapel mic, and cabled lapel mics on Amazon are probably $10 to $15. And you could have a 10, 15, 20-foot cable on there, however long you want. And so that's a very affordable way to do it. But of course, when you do that, you're not going to be able to wander the room nearly as much as with a wireless. We do have wireless solutions on our website. I can bring that up real quick here, I guess. But I want to emphasize that you do not need to use our wireless microphones. But if you're going to do that, you would go to streamer.solutions/shop, which I thought, here we go. And Once this pops up, I'll show you our microphones and cables. There we go. And by far what schools order is the nano microphone kit. It's shown here with a handheld and a headset, but what they typically get is 2 lapel mics with that. So it's just an option that you can select. Again, you do not need to use our microphones with Streamer. If you have a phonak system or something in place, go ahead and use that existing one versus purchasing one from us. Let's see. For classroom discussions, does the teacher need to repeat each question? And it totally depends on how you want to set that up. I would say that is probably done 80% of the time, where we do not transcribe what other students are saying, but Streamer will happily transcribe what other students are saying. So if you want to do that approach, you can. And so it's totally depending on the policy within your school district of what you would prefer to do. Do you want to transcribe what other students, there's arguments certainly for both sides. And Streamer will do whatever you want. But again, I would say probably 80% of the time, what happens is the teacher repeats that comment. Let's see, another question. Can you have multiple rooms occurring at the same time? Yes, and when you do that, you would need then multiple Streamer rooms. So if you have 2 classes happening at the exact same time, Monday at 9 a.m., so 2 separate classrooms, then you would have 2 separate Streamer rooms to support that situation. You can have as many students as you want in those 2 rooms, but you would have to have 2 separate rooms in order to support that situation where you have 2 classes appearing at the exact same time. Another question here, for Streamer to caption other students in a group discussion, do all the students have to be running Streamer? That's typically how, well, you can do it multiple ways. And so basically Streamer is so flexible, it's going to do whatever you want it to do. And so I've just scratched the surface, but we are able to configure Streamer to whatever you would like. So in many situations for group discussions, they have a pass around mic, a wireless handheld mic that gets passed around. So you only have that wireless mic connected to a single Streamer account. If you have a situation, for example, where you have a group of students and all of them have their own Chromebook, then you're going to use the built-in microphones within their Chromebook. So those are just 2 ways of doing it. But again, lots of flexibility built in with Streamer. And when you go through some of these documents, you'll be able to see that. Another question here, so thanks for sending them. Can you change your groups daily, weekly? Yes, absolutely. That's easy to do. And with Streamer, lots of flexibility, which is kind of the, with Streamer, it does take a little bit to get used to all this flexibility. And so it's kind of like Microsoft Word, where some people are just typing it, but then you get people that really dig in and they know how to use all those advanced features in Word and start drilling down and such. Streamer has all those advanced features that you can drill down and learn a lot about. So they are there. Whatever you want Streamer to do, odds are it can be done. And if it's not part of the set, we will potentially or probably add it to it. We do that all the time, where we are adding new features. That's really how we add features, is that we get requests from teachers in order to add them. Let's see, I think that pretty well covers all the questions, and I'm about 4 minutes over, so I apologize for that. Again, here's how to contact us for more information. And if you want that continuing education credits, just let us know and send us an email, and we'll get that to you. And here then again is the way you sign up for a free trial. And again, no credit cards or anything like that. So feel free to go ahead and sign that up. The one item that I forgot to mention is that each email can only be used one time. And so if you sign up with your school email and then later on you want to do a second trial, that's absolutely fine, but you would need to use a different email address, a personal email address or something like that. But again, signing up for multiple trials, we're absolutely fine with that. But each time it does need to be a different email address, because you'll be blocked if you've done that first trial. Okay, with that, I guess I have a few more questions that I will, very specific ones, kind of getting a little into student privacy. So I'm going to answer those privately offline. But for those of you that ask those, I will answer those by typing. So thanks everybody for taking the time to learn a bit more about captioning systems in your school district. And let us know if you have any sort of questions. We're always happy to help. Thanks so much. Bye now.